been watching Michigan and Oregon. We're here. I'm going to have Steve Wiltfong on in a second. We're going to talk recruit reaction to this 38-17 win. Oregon wins at Michigan, a big one. Michigan, they fall to 5-4. Oregon stays undefeated, and we're going to go out to Ann Arbor, where there were some big-time visitors. Actually, despite the loss, it was a huge recruiting weekend for Michigan, not just big names on campus, and we're going to cover those, some important flip targets on campus. But Michigan got flipping well before the weekend started. Shamari Earls on Friday night flips from Georgia. A couple hours before that, Benny Patterson, the coveted defensive lineman committed to Cincinnati that USC's been trying to get on campus. Everybody's been trying to flip Benny Patterson. Well, it finally happened last night, but it was Michigan that did the flipping. They collect two big flips, Earls and Patterson. We're going to talk all about it. You guys come on, get comfortable, sit down, take a seat. We're watching the ends of these games. And you guys do me a favor and smash that subscribe button, because we're here talking college football recruiting on a Saturday night. What a better place to be. Speaking of better places to be, let's bring in Steve Wiltfong out there in Indianapolis. Steve, the Hoosiers are rolling, but we're here. We're going to talk a little Michigan and Oregon, a huge win for the Oregon Ducks, 38-17. What's your takeaway from this one?
Hoosiers spotted Michigan State 10 before they started routing them. But Oregon showing why they're the number one team in the country today against a Michigan team that was energized to play. It's a hard-hitting game, but the Ducks made big play after big play, get another win, improve to 8-0. Anytime you win on the road, especially at a place like the Big House, it's huge for your program. And Oregon, with all the prospects that they're in on right now down the stretch, to come out here to handle business, to continue to show these blue chippers, these five stars like Jakeem Stewart that are still out there, or Naeem Offord, who's committed to Ohio State, that we are indeed the best team in the country. The Ducks did that again on Saturday behind the arm of Dylan Gabriel and his talented wideouts.
Yeah, a convincing win. And, let's back up. Let's go back to Friday, Steve. I know you predicted this, so none of this is a shocker to you. But in the college football recruiting world, Shamari Earls flipping from Georgia to Michigan. Also, Benny Patterson from Cincinnati to Michigan. What was going on Friday?
Well, Michigan's coaching staff has done a really great job of building meaningful relationships with their top prospects, and they have a lot to point to, obviously, with this program. They're the defending national champs. The NFL draft has been good to them year in and year out. Their culture within their football facility is up there with the likes of Clemson and such in college football, So when prospects get on campus, they feel that family aura around the program. I think it might be the largest alumni group in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan has a lot going for it on the trail. And Shamari Earls was a guy that they never backed off of, committed to Georgia. But the connection, the family feel he gets around Sharon Moore, Lamar Morgan, the way those guys make him feel comfortable. Again, the way they've developed defensive backs, what they've done with Will Johnson, an opportunity to play early. There's going to be opportunities in every position room to play early and help get Michigan going again. Andrew Babalola, the five-star offensive tackle, said as much when he committed to Michigan less than 2 weeks ago. These guys are hungry to get into Ann Arbor, get into Schembechler Hall, and get Michigan back on track. The Wolverines are 5-4 right now. It's been a tough schedule. But a tough loss today to Oregon. But I think that they're trending for some more wins on the recruiting trail moving forward.
Yeah, luckily recruiting doesn't always follow the same path as maybe the football team's record. So you see here, Michigan's top commitments, they have a really solid base right now of really a talented group. But with what they had on campus this weekend, let's talk about some of these flip targets, potential flip targets. I thought one of the most interesting names that showed up on game day was wide receiver Derek Meadows, because he's committed to LSU. We know that Michigan, Notre Dame, among others, were heavily involved in his recruitment before he committed to LSU. Were you surprised to see Derek Meadows at Michigan this weekend?
No, because behind the scenes, there's been a lot of buzz about Derek Meadows and Michigan trying to add him amongst some other elite players for this stretch run as they make a run at what could maybe ultimately be a top 5 class. They sit at number 10 right now in the On3 recruit rankings after flipping Shamari Earls on Friday night. But Derek Meadows is someone that they haven't relented on. He's been to campus several times. Ron Bellamy's been leading that recruitment, but he has relationships with Michigan commits and targets and people in the state. So Michigan's in the middle of that one. He's going to visit Notre Dame next week. Still a lot of confidence around the Irish for Derek Meadows as well.
All right. Well, how could we possibly talk Michigan recruiting and not mention Bryce Underwood? So he wasn't expected to be in town. I'm assuming he was not in town because I'm sure X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it would have been going absolutely bonkers if Bryce Underwood showed up. But Steve, am I crazy for maybe connecting the dots with Derek Meadows and Bryce Underwood? Like, is there any ties there?
Yeah, it'd be the third most watched thing on Twitter. Bryce Underwood would have showed up at Michigan today behind Travis Kelce or Jason Kelce, excuse me, and then James Franklin. So I think there was some hope that he would visit this weekend. Michigan, they've obviously been pushing for him since he committed to LSU in January, but I think those talks have intensified over the last month or so. There's some hope around the Michigan program that they can make a move with Bryce Underwood late here. But on the Baton Rouge side, on the LSU side, I think that there's full confidence that he's solid in his pledge. He's going to be back at LSU for the Alabama game for his official visit this next weekend. And he's still in regular communication with the commits that are in that talented LSU class that ranks number 3 nationally, loves the offense, the tradition. He always saw himself at LSU even before his process started, but certainly Michigan in those talks have intensified over the last month, and there's some confidence around the program that there's people that feel that they can get it done.
All right. Speaking of intensifying, what about the recruitment of linebacker Nathaniel Owusu Boateng? He's been out to Michigan a couple times. He was there today. What's the latest you're hearing on Boateng and his recruitment to Michigan?
Well, I think they have always been at or near the top of his list. He loves the way that they develop linebackers, the style of play on defense, and thinks he could come in and play right away for the Maize and Blue. This is his second game visit. Every time he visits, he says they continue to impress him and his family. His official visit in the summer, he called it the best of all the officials he took. And he's going to be at Notre Dame next week for the Florida State game. He's got Colorado in the picture. His brother, Jeremiah Owusu, obviously won the Buckeyes Award at Notre Dame. There's a lot of family ties to that South Bend program, but I could see him wearing a winged helmet on the next level. That's for sure.
Yeah. And, these are some of these games where even though Michigan didn't win, it feels like, Steve, am I crazy? But it feels like Michigan had a really good recruiting weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, they had some great players on campus this weekend and some guys that I could ultimately see in the fold for them. Receiver Jamar Browder, currently committed to NC State, was making his second visit to campus. He told me a few weeks ago Michigan was his leader despite his commitment to NC State. Christian Ingram is a tradesy defensive lineman from the Peach State that's on Michigan's campus this weekend. We'll see what kind of move that they can make for him. The most intriguing prospect on campus this weekend to me is Grayson Littlejohn, a top 100 recruit, decommitted from Clemson on Friday. He is at Michigan today for a game visit. You cannot take visits if you are committed to Clemson. They bounce you from the class. So he decommitted himself. He's at Michigan. I think the momentum is with the Wolverines right now. I think they're the one to beat for Grayson Littlejohn. They are going to lose a lot in this secondary following the season. And they have one of the best secondary classes in the country right now. But to add a Littlejohn to Shamari Earls and Ivan Taylor and guys of that talent level to come in and replace a Will Johnson and a Makari Page and guys like that would be huge. There's an early opportunity for all these guys to come in and make an impact.
So, Steve, let's wrap this segment up. On the flip side of this game, what does it mean for Oregon right now? They're undefeated. They're rolling on the recruiting trail. We know they got some heavy flip targets out there that we talk about every week on this channel. So what's next for Oregon recruiting after this win?
Well, they're in the middle of it for some really elite prospects in this class as they try and finish with a second straight top 5 recruiting class. And
Mhm.
Jakeem Stewart is a prospect that they're battling Ohio State, USC, and LSU for. He's going to be at LSU next weekend for his official visit, but there's no question momentum around Oregon and Jakeem Stewart. I think that Oregon and Ohio State are in the best position right now for Jakeem Stewart. And he was at Ohio State last weekend. He's going to go to Oregon on November 23rd and then get back to Ohio State the weekend of the 30th and then make his commitment that first Wednesday in December. So that recruitment's a war. He wants to play in big games. He wants to play on the biggest stage. And Oregon is showing that they are a program that's going to be there for years to come. Again, to go into the big house and get a win like that on the road against a Michigan team that saw it as an opportunity to really turn their season around. They were geared up for it, but Oregon had all the answers and then some. Jaron Key Sagapolitelli is an on-300 quarterback that's a major senior riser, threw well at the Elite 11 finals in the summer. He visited Oregon last weekend. I like the way that's starting to trend for the Ducks as they battle Georgia.
Yeah.
He's currently committed to Cal, all 3 programs still in the mix. Vander Plug's an on-300 tight end that took 2 straight visits to Oregon, Josh. Oregon is trending on the on-3 RPM, but he's back at Washington this weekend. So Oregon getting a win while Washington hosts USC tonight. So we'll see what happens there. But Naeem Offord's a 5-star corner committed to Ohio State that Oregon's still alive for. Oregon's always working on a big flip or two behind the scenes. So you keep winning games like this. You're impressing on the field. You impress with your program, your coaches, the culture you've created. And then certainly you have the resources to be competitive in the NIL space. Oregon's clicking on all cylinders right now. And those fans inside the big house felt that today.
Absolutely. What a game it was for Oregon. Also, though, Michigan. Hey, Michigan fans, you're recruiting really well despite the outcome. So talk to us, whether you're Oregon, whether you're Michigan fan, what's the next step for recruiting and how you guys feeling about this weekend? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, let's head. Where are we going to head? Let's head over to Penn State where they were hosting Ohio State. And the Nittany Lions got off to a great start. It was 10-0. But then Ohio State woke up. The Buckeyes win 20-13. There were some big names on campus. We previewed it coming into the weekend. But Steve, let's talk about what was out at Happy Valley. Let's start with tight end Andrew Olish. He's committed to Michigan, but was out there at this game. What do you think of Andrew Olish and what's going on with Penn State?
Well, I talked to him and his father, George, following the game. They had a great time outside of the result of the game. I think his dad particularly felt bad that Penn State did not get the win today, falling 20-13 to Ohio State. And what's just these games against each other are fantastic games year in and year out with the same ending over and over and over. And it's James Franklin and company's worst nightmare right now. But the beauty is with the 12-team college football playoff, they're still right there in the mix to make it to the college football playoff, maybe avenge this loss and find some big wins down the stretch. Andrew Olish could be a big win for them at the end of this 2025 recruiting cycle as well. I know he can see himself at Penn State, loves the offense, the trajectory of it, sees a big opportunity for a tight end to be the key playmaker. James Franklin met with him on the field before the game around 11 a.m. and told him Penn State's got everything you need to be successful here. He felt that Ty Howell and some of the tight ends that he's developed in over the course of his career, that stands out to Olish as well. He's committed to Michigan. He's at Notre Dame next weekend for the Florida State game. He was at Oregon last weekend. I think he's going to get back to Oregon for an official visit. So we'll see how this continues to play out, but I could definitely see Andrew Olish in Penn State's class when all said and done.
Wow. That's a bit of big news there for Penn State fans. Now, some more big news. 5-star quarterback Matt Zoller showed up on campus today for this Penn State game. He famously committed to Missouri over really Georgia. I mean, Penn State was definitely involved with them, but at the time it was more of a Georgia race. But Missouri 5-star quarterback Matt Zoller's on campus. Steve, what does it mean?
Well, anytime a quarterback, specifically a quarterback of that magnitude, takes a visit, it raises my antenna. Now, he's saying all the right things. He's locked in with Mizzou. Told our colleague Chad Simmons he's going to be at Mizzou next weekend for the Oklahoma game. So I think it's still an uphill climb for Penn State, but similar to Michigan's aspirations with Bryce Underwood, I think that Penn State would like to make a run at Matt Zollers here late in the cycle. Carter Smith's another name to maybe keep an eye on for Penn State, recently
Right.
decommitted from Michigan. Carter Smith and his family, his dad told me that they're expecting to hear more from Penn State on Monday. Wouldn't be a surprise if he's at the whiteout game next weekend when Penn State tries to get back on track. I believe they have Washington for the whiteout game next weekend. But that game couldn't have come at a better time as they look to play in front of an energized crowd and get a win. And you see these. I know the fans are tired of losing to Ohio State. They have the chore of playing against the Buckeyes every year, man. It ain't easy. They lose one game a year typically during the one regular season. If that, sometimes they lose 0. Penn State battled them every year. I think James Franklin and company have done a good job there. If there was 12-team playoffs before this year, they'd been in it a few times and competing and seeing what happens in round 2 against some teams as they try and avenge some losses. But they'll get a chance maybe this year to get another crack at the Buckeyes if they can take care of business the rest of the way.
Yeah. Let's double back to Matt Zollers real quick. What do you think was the reason he was there? Do you think Matt Zollers is looking around? Do you think he just wanted to go to a big game? And if he is looking around, do you think there's any other programs that he's entertaining besides Penn State?
He told me that he came to this game because it was a big game and he just wanted to see a great game between 2 opponents. But there's no question he got a chance to meet with Coach Kotelnicki, Coach O'Brien, Coach Franklin floating around. And again, these quarterback recruitments, sometimes it takes a lot of resources to win a quarterback recruiting battle on the trail too. And so we'll see. I feel like late in the process for a lot of these top targets, resources are going to come together and opportunities are going to be put on the table, and we'll see if there's any flips late. But right now, Matt Zollers says he's locked in with Mizzou, was just going to the game to go to a great game, and he'll be back at Mizzou next weekend.
Great intel. This is why we do the Recruit Reaction Show. Where else can you get 5-star intel like that coming out of the game? I mean, they're literally still on the field out there. And Steve, you got intel straight from the 5-star quarterback. Any other names of interest in Happy Valley that you want to talk about?
Well, Romero Ison's on 300 receiver that's committed to USC that Penn State's still swinging at. They had a bunch of underclassmen on campus. Matt Sieg's a 4-star safety that committed to the Nittany Lions before the game. Nice pickup for them in the 2026 class. And I think a lot of the kids that were there could see themselves playing in those kind of atmospheres and environments and helping Penn State come out on top. Those are 3 guys right there that Penn State's at or near the top of the list for, particularly Joey O'Brien. I love where the Nittany Lions stand with Joey O'Brien right now in his process.
All right, Steve, let's wrap it up. But first, talk a little bit about Ohio State. I mean, a huge win for the Buckeyes. What does it mean for the Buckeyes on the recruiting trail?
Yeah, so the Buckeyes are in the mix to finish with On3's number 1 ranked recruiting class, sitting at number 2 right now. Just a reminder that, hey, we're still Ohio State. We can go on the road and win a big game. Lost a tough one to Oregon earlier in the year, which limits their margin of error to get into the Big Ten title game, which would then improve their seed perhaps in the college football playoff. But anytime you can win a game like this, top 5, it certainly helps you rack up an inch or 2 on the recruiting trail. And they still have a chance to finish with the number 1 class in the country. Naeem Offord was at Auburn today. But talking to his family, I still like where the Buckeyes sit with Naeem Offord. He's going to be back for the Michigan game. Oregon's still in there for Naeem Offord as well. But Ohio State continues to do all the right things in that recruitment. He loves the Buckeyes and the level that they play at and the way they develop their DBs, and he's looking forward to getting back to campus. Damola Ajidahan is an on 300 offensive tackle that's committed to Georgia Tech. He's making his 3rd visit to South Carolina tonight for the Texas A&M game. But Ohio State really gave them a great visit and moved the needle. So offensive line, a position of need for them as they try and finish out this 2025 cycle. They got a chance to land one of the nation's best there at the position. But it's full court press on Jakeem Stewart. They'd love to add him to this class. And wins like this certainly don't hurt in the pursuit of the blue chipper who wants to play in the biggest games in college football when he arrives on the scene.
Yeah, you got to have wins to land Jakeem Stewart. That recruitment has been heating up. All right, Penn State and Ohio State fans, talk recruiting with us in the comments section below. What changed this weekend? How you guys feeling coming out of this one? Let us know in the comment section below. All right, let's head down to Coral Gables. Miami beats Duke 53-31. It sounds like they beat the brakes off of them, but this was a lot closer than the final score indicates. Duke really hung tough for more than 3 quarters in this one, but Cam Ward does Cam Ward-like things, and in the end, they put up more points than the other team, 53-31. Steve, big name prospect on campus, the number 1 ranked offensive tackle in the 2026 class, Jackson Cantwell, was in Miami, and it sounds like he had a great time.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Miami become a major contender for Jackson Cantwell moving forward. You have Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Missouri, Nebraska in play. He also visited Oregon and USC in the summer. But with each win, and Miami shows so much grit in all their wins. I think they are a tremendous second half team. The adjustments they make in the locker room, things they do late in the games, they have the mettle and the toughness to win these games. And with each victory, the support, they rally around him just a little bit more. Yeah. But Mario Cristobal and company trying to restore this program into a national title caliber team. They had the 2026 recruits on campus to keep them breathing that air for years to come. But Jackson Cantwell loves that this is an offensive line-based program. That's where Cristobal's heart is at. He's a former offensive lineman at Miami. Him and Coach Alex Mirabal, the offensive line coach, those guys are extremely close. And he's got a track record of success developing some of the best offensive linemen in college football. So that speaks to him. The atmosphere, where Miami's at as a program, the style of play, it's fun. They're scoring a ton of points. They're making key plays on defense. They had some really talented recruits on campus Saturday for this one. And we'll see what happens moving forward. But I think they'll ultimately land some of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is the formula. If you're going to land the number 1 offensive tackle in the 2026 class, you better get him on campus during the 2024 season, and that's just what they did. And he wasn't the only elite 2026 prospect on campus. On3's number 1 tight end, Kendra Harrison, he was there as well. Also, edge rusher Anthony Jones. What did Miami do? What did the win do to impact these recruits?
Well, we're still waiting to hear back from those guys, but we just know that Miami is a program that they had a top 5 recruiting class last year. They're going to make a run at it this year, trying to score some big flips down the stretch. They always find a way to get into the middle of these recruiting battles for the nation's best. And those are 2 guys that I think it wouldn't be surprising if we see them back at Miami down the road.
All right. So, yeah. Miami also making an impact with running back Derek Cooper. This is something that Miami's been trying to do. They've been trying to win over some of these local recruits before, they get committed to an Ohio State or an Auburn or an Alabama. Have you heard, is Miami kind of making a little headway when it comes to these local prospects?
Well, yeah. I mean, Jalen Waters on campus for a second straight game, committed to Florida. Derek Cooper, the on-3 RPM favors Miami for him already. We talked about it on Wilt Fong Whipparound on Thursday. He hasn't seen a Miami team be this good in his entire life. He heard about it from his parents and his family, but now he's seeing it for himself. Championship level football with the opportunity to do it at home around family and friends and supporters. I think that's very exciting for him. And Miami top 10 class last year, pushing for a top 5 class last year, pushing for it again. These kind of seasons, we're going to see Miami in that mix for years to come with the results on the field now.
Yeah, I was going to say they're gearing up for a top 5 class in 2025, the class that we're currently in. And with the returns that we're getting from some of these 2026 prospects, I think that's a good way to gauge kind of where Miami could fall next year. And I think you're looking at Miami gunning for another top 5 finish. And that's kind of been the formula to get Miami back to where they are right now, undefeated under Mario Cristobal, is stacking these elite recruiting classes. And that's just what we're seeing happen. So coming out of this 53-31 win over Duke. Miami fans, talk to us. How are we feeling about recruiting, and how are you feeling about the rest of the season? They're going to run the table? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, we got one more. Let's talk Auburn versus Vanderbilt. Anchor down. Vandy wins despite a huge weekend on campus in Auburn for recruiting. You had Deuce Knight there. You had Alvin Henderson there. You had some key flip targets too in Naeem Offord, Nick Brooks, Shamar No. Joseph Mbachu, I know he's not committed to UF anymore, but there's some news on him heading into the weekend. So I don't know, Steve, where do you want to start with recruits on campus at Auburn?
Well, Naeem Offord being back to campus for another game. I believe it's his third game of the year. He's also been to practice over there, was at Big Cat weekend at the end of the summer. There's people around the plains that feel good that Naeem Offord will eventually be in the class, but I think it's still a battle.
Wow.
I think, he's committed to Ohio State, loves the Buckeyes, will be back for the game against Michigan. And then Oregon's there just lying in the weeds as a dark horse that I wouldn't sleep on the Ducks with Naeem Offord as well. Player development, the big thing for him. Yeah, I think with Coach Crime and Coach Charles Kelly at Auburn, he sees a history and a past of them being able to do it. Ohio State and Oregon are playing in the biggest games in college football right now. Does he want to join a top 5 recruiting class and help restore Auburn to that? Or is he still leaning towards playing at one of the current powerhouses, Ohio State or Oregon? I think Auburn's still battling right here for Naeem Offord. Could I see him in the Auburn class? Yes, but I think if he was making his final decision today, I think he'd still be rocking with the Buckeyes.
Okay. All right. That's where I was going to go with that question when you were done with your explanation. All right. What about Nick Brooks, the big offensive lineman committed to the Longhorns? I was a bit surprised to see him pop up on the list here.
Yeah, developing story on my end as well, but Auburn, nobody's off limits with the way that they're trying to recruit. Hugh Freeze and company does not want to go through another year like this. They've been in every game. They've been painful. Some of the ways that these games have ended. This was another winnable game against Vanderbilt this year. They want to quickly get it back on track. We know they're going to go to the portal at the quarterback position at the end of the season, but they're starting to stack championship level recruiting classes, starting to get that quarterback room in order, which is really the big need with Auburn. I'm not sure there's a program in the country that's got a bigger need than Auburn at the quarterback position when you talk about the kind of difference addressing that would make for a program. Because if Auburn had a vertical offensive attack right now, they could be 7-1, right? So they're really struggling under center and struggling to be consistent on offense right now, but they're lining up the recruits. And again, they had some guys on campus this weekend that could certainly help with the rebuild. Joseph Mbachu is a 4-star from Loganville Grayson High in the Peach State. I have my on-3 RPM in favor of Auburn for Mbachu. They're battling Texas for him, among others. But Kenyatta Watson, he's got all the ties to Grayson in the Peach State. Coach Vontrell King Williams is someone else that's made an impression. Mbachu. So I liked Auburn coming into the visit. Kenyatta Watson's been big for Shamar Arnu, too, defensive back, currently committed to USC. He feels the love from Coach McGriff, Coach Kelly when he visits. So I could see him in Auburn's class. Miami's recruiting him as well. But Auburn, they're kind of spatula city since Hugh Freeze has been there. They've had some monster flips 2 cycles ago last year, and then starting with Deuce Knight, Derek Smith, guys like that. They've had some big-time flips here in the 2025 cycle. And the tough losses on the field are just showing these recruits just how close they are. And these guys could quickly come in and maybe be the difference to help Auburn get it back on track right away.
Yeah, it just seems like no matter what happens to Auburn on the football field, they stay hot on the recruiting trail. And you don't see that all across the country. I mean, Florida State had a great recruiting class until the season started. They started losing games. Everybody decommits. Now Auburn kind of, not a great season, but they are not only is Auburn holding on to what they've got, but they're making huge additions to their class, like a Deuce Knight, like a Joseph Mbachu, if he's to commit to them. I mean, it just seems like no matter what happens on the field, Auburn recruiting is going to stay hot.
Well, these prospects, not only do they like the culture and feel close to the coaching staff, but they've built a good bond amongst each other. This 2025 class with guys like Alvin Henderson in it, they've become buds, brothers, and they look forward to playing with each other on the next level and them being to so many home games together. A lot of these commits have been season ticket holders basically this year with the amount of times they've gotten back to campus. They enjoy being around each other. They enjoy being around Auburn and this program. And so that's another reason why this class is hung together.
Kind of unbelievable. Auburn fans, talk to us, comment section below. How are you feeling? Not just about the game, but talk to us about recruiting. How are you feeling about recruiting? This class is loaded. A lot of key needs are being filled. So comment section below, let us know how you're feeling about Auburn recruiting. All right, Steve, that's another fun edition of Recruit Reaction. Our second live today, I don't know if you guys saw, but Jordan Young committed to Clemson right here on this channel. A very emotional day for the young man, but in the end, it was the Clemson Tigers. Big day here on the On3 Recruit channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed because tomorrow I'll be filming the inside scoop. On Monday, Steve, that guy, he'll be filming the Wilt Fong whip around. We got a ton of action here, so hit subscribe. We'll see you guys tomorrow.